During World War II, there is one aircraft that is equally at home at 30,000 feet on a reconnaissance mission, as it is skimming at treetop level, taking the fight to the enemy's door. Capable of a 4,000-pound bomb load, it can smash its target with pinpoint accuracy, or deliver a 6-pound shell against a U-boat. No one is safe from its fury. With a speed of over 400 miles per hour, it is so fast and maneuverable that the Germans award their pilots with 2 kills if they manage to shoot one down. Yet this aircraft was ridiculed from the start. In a revolutionary leap of design, it has no armor, has only a pilot and navigator, and even more bizarre, it is built entirely of wood. But by the end of the war, nearly 8,000 of these aircraft had been built. It had won the hearts of all who had flown it, and had become a legend in its own lifetime. It was called the Mosquito.
It was a thrill, absolute thrill, to be with those purring engines going, and you touch the stick to the left, it went to the left. It was superb.
It was just a sheer joy to fly around with these 1,200 horses neighing on each side. It was a thing of beauty and a joy forever. It really was.
Using extraordinary archive film and colour reenactments, Battle Stations goes into harm's way with the deadly Mosquito. The best aircraft have often also been the fastest. The pursuit of speed has been part of the appeal of aviation from its earliest days. And often it is the most innovative and radical designs that break speed records. The Lockheed Blackbird uses new metals that came out of the space race and flies at over 3 times the speed of sound. Throughout the 1930s, one company in Britain was also obsessed with speed, and it was one man's dream to use a radical material to build the fastest aircraft in the world. The material was wood, and his name was Geoffrey de Havilland.
He was so very determined. Anything he wanted to do, he got on with it and did it. A real leader of people, not by driving them, but leading them from the front.
As early as the 1930s, de Havilland knew that lightweight wooden aircraft were the key to greater speeds. In 1934, his twin-engine Comet won the London to Melbourne, Australia air race. With speeds of over 200 miles per hour, the aircraft flew halfway around the world in just 77 hours. A ship would take 4 weeks. From his experience of building the Comet, de Havilland began to have a vision of building a super-fast, high-precision bomber. De Havilland was convinced that with the rise of the German Luftwaffe in the mid-1930s and the terror they inflicted during the Spanish Civil War, Britain would need all the heavy-duty air power it could produce.
It took the British quite a while to realize that the Germans had innovative designs, monoplane fighters, but more importantly, they had medium bombers that were being developed, and they had, in effect, tested them in the Spanish Civil War from 1936 onwards. It's a huge wake-up call.
At the time, the British Air Ministry believed that the future of bombing was in huge, heavily armed conventional bombers such as the Lancaster and Halifax. Radical new designs of lightweight aircraft were scoffed at. But Geoffrey de Havilland had other ideas and continued working on designs for his new bomber. His dream was to construct a cheap, easy-to-build aircraft powered by 2 Rolls-Royce Merlin engines. Amazingly, it would have no guns, no armor plating, could carry up to 4,000 pounds of explosive, and with a speed of nearly 400 miles per hour, would be faster than any other aircraft in the world. But the most amazing concept of his vision was to build a warplane made entirely of wood. The aerodynamicists and the military men at the time ridiculed the idea, saying, "How can you build a modern bomber out of wood? How would it carry bombs? And how would it protect itself?" But de Havilland had all the answers. It wouldn't need to protect itself. Its defense would be speed. And as far as strength was concerned, pound for pound, timber has similar structural properties as aluminium and steel.
There's a shortage in Britain in the late 1930s of metal workers, of people skilled in the new technologies of fighter aeroplanes, of bomber aeroplanes. What you did have, though, was a nation of cabinet builders, of woodworkers, of individual small craftsmen. But more importantly, you can actually mobilize all of these people to build it, and you can make it, in effect, a cottage industry.
September 1939. With war in Europe, de Havilland is at last given the green light to build a prototype aircraft. Immediately, the de Havilland design team went into overdrive. Led by Ronald Bishop, they moved into a 17th century manor house called Salisbury Hall. This remote house was chosen to keep the new aircraft away from prying enemy eyes. By October 1939, work had begun on building a mock-up aircraft in the manor's enormous kitchen, and a hangar disguised as a barn was constructed at the western side of the moat.
We were working often periods of time, 6.5 days a week, and at some periods from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night.
But they were racing against the clock. In the spring of 1940, Germany conquered France, and the British Army was swept off the beaches of Dunkirk. With the Germans poised for invasion, Britain was fighting for its survival. Every effort was focused on holding back the Germans, and de Havilland's wonder plane seemed destined never to leave the drawing board.